Okay, good evening, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas on the table near the entrance or online at the city's website. Consent agenda items are routine items which are voted on in one motion and vote. Unfinished or new business items are voted on separately. Councilors will be given the opportunity for questions or comments, followed by citizens who must speak at the podium, identifying themselves. Citizens will be allowed to speak one time per agenda item for up to 3 minutes. Citizens who do wish to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have the opportunity to do so during the public comment section of the agenda for up to 3 minutes. First up this evening is we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and next up is disclosure of conflict of interest. Any counselors have any conflict of interest on any of the votes that they will make tonight? Seeing none, we will move right into the manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the agenda packet, I've included not only a bullet point listing of some of the topics I'll briefly touch on, but also some attachments for further detail that I'll reference. The first thing, there was an event called Meet the Reps that occurred on January 8th at the Bricks facility over in Hathaway. And it was hosted by the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce. And we got to meet with different legislative representatives across the state, as well as the chamber's representatives, and they were able to speak about their advocacy on different pending issues at the state on behalf of our community. Particularly, they were looking at things to help out housing needs in the community, and they were also looking to take stance on things that could help economic development in our area. And that was a well-attended event, so I was pleased to be invited, as was the mayor and the council chair. At that same event, I was able to speak with the representative for Senator King's office, and he was able to follow up and state that we have, as a city of Waterville, pending application for congressional directed spending, an application at the federal level, and it's still being considered. It was for pedestrian improvement projects in town. And we will hear about that in the coming weeks and months because they're still working on their fiscal year budget. And this is still up for consideration, but we're not aware of the outcome just yet. So we're hopeful that will be still up for consideration. The next item is winter and overnight parking. This time of year, with the different snowstorms, sometimes there's different issues in the community about where you can and can't park certain times. And I just wanted to add some clarity. So the attachment regarding that matter in the agenda packet is just spelling out the related documents of our ordinance that spell out the guidelines for when you can and can't park, particularly if there's a snow event and there would be public notice given in advance if you have to leave, for example, the downtown or concourse areas for a snow removal event. But I just wanted to add clarity to that because it has changed in recent years about which locations and how you would be notified. So I wanted to have it in one more place for people to reference if they needed. The next point was about transportation. As some people in the community may have noticed, there's been less and less taxi cab services in the community in recent months and years for various reasons. But the mayor and other people reached out and wanted to start the conversation, particularly with other partners in the community that can help offset that transportation need. And it seems KV-CAP is doing a great job with their services, and they also provided different documentation for their what they call dial-a-ride service, if you will, and they have a rider's guide that spells out how you can access their services, and it's for a nominal fee, probably less than would be the case for a taxi service. You just have to call the day in advance unless there's an opening for services on the day of as needed. But if you go to their website or call their number for KV-CAP, you could learn more and spread the word about that too, because as there's less taxi cab services available, you need to figure out how to get transportation services for those that need it. And KV-CAP is one such resource. I'm sure there's others as well. The next item is about community paramedicine. As was discussed a few meetings ago, the Colby Policy Lab has a memorandum of understanding with the city to take some of the program data in recent years and help us analyze it to move it forward to try to see where we can move that program forward in future years, and we're quite excited. It's at the point where they have the data, have gotten back to the corresponding staff and intern with the city, and we're looking forward in the coming weeks and months to the outcome of their results of being able to look at that data and probably help us understand next steps, including grant applications that are in the works and due very soon. We could utilize that data to help our efforts in perhaps achieving that grant award. There was a council goals retreat on January 10th, and everyone you see up here was in attendance, and in the coming council meetings you will get to see the results of that, namely their 2026 goals, and that's direction for the town, the city staff, for how to advance their aims to help the city of Waterville and its residents. In the packet of a few pages, I also included some end-of-year department statistics, and I won't go into the detail, but I wanted to note that there's code enforcement dwelling units information in this packet, as well as fire department and police department calls for service data. And I'd like to state that all three of those departments, as well as other city departments, do an extraordinary job, and their volume of necessary efforts on the permits and calls for service for those departments are continually high, and they do a great job, and they coordinate a lot as well, and that type of teamwork is very respected in the community, so I appreciate them including those statistics for the city to see if you'd like to dig into the numbers for yourself. Only a couple more things, and the next two are both unfortunate things for sure. I-95 tragic accident that happened on January 13th. Perhaps you've all read about it in the various media, but I just wanted to say our condolences for the city and beyond go out to all the people affected, particularly the two individuals that lost their life in that tragic accident, and appreciate the coordinated efforts with the state police and all the local service providers, including police, fire, and public works, that were able to assist in that to keep people safe and keep the site protected to avoid any further incidents. And there was also an unfortunate structure fire on Chase Avenue the very next day, and fortunately the people that were displaced were able to be helped, but there was a significant structure damage. And then the last one, to end on a more upbeat note after those things, there was a big event this weekend at the Quarry Road Trails, and it was the Roy Varney Memorial Eastern Cup at Quarry Road Trails. It was both Saturday and Sunday, and I'm told it was very well attended, both by participants and attendees. And there were hundreds of people from all over New England particularly, and mostly high school skiers. And the staff that helped participate in it want to extend their thanks to the Parks and Rec team and all the volunteers. They call it a small army of volunteers that were dedicated to help make it possible. So thank you very much, and that's all I have in my manager's report for this evening.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. All right, moving on to council comments and/or committee reports. Any council members have any updates or committee reports this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment or whatever they want to speak about that's not on the agenda tonight, please feel free. Nancy.
Nancy Sanford, Ward 1. I don't know if there's something being done that I've not heard about, which is certainly possible, but I hope that the city is doing something and not just relying on the Mid-Maine homeless shelter and the lighthouse to get people out of the extraordinary cold that we're having and going to have. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Whitney, and I live here in Waterville. And I'm here tonight because I am very concerned about the Arctic cold that's supposed to be hitting us for the next 4 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And they say it's supposed to be below 12 below, with gusts that would drop it to 30 below. Now, that's pretty cold. And I'm here to question you to what we can do to provide the homeless people with a warming center during these days. Every life has value. Every life has value. And kindness is never the wrong answer. And so I would like to encourage you. We have 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to find some place for these people to go for these horrible days. Because if we don't provide something, we're going to be finding dead bodies all around Waterville. And these are our people. You know? And it's a sadness. It's a sadness. A place for them to stay. I know a lot of the people that are homeless. I provided them food. I've taken them in. The last person I took in was living with her dog in her car, sleeping in her car because she had no place to go. So I know what it's like for these people. I've bought them tents. I've bought them grills to cook their food. I provided food for them and their dogs. Now, this is nothing for me. I don't want to thank you. This is just because it's the right thing to do. Kindness is always the right answer. That's what I teach in my Bible studies. And this is what we need. And so I'm asking you, each one of you, to find some place for a warming center for our people. Because at any moment in time, we never know what could happen. And the chances are that we might be out on the street. It might be because our home burned. We lost our job and couldn't pay our mortgage or rent. Where they are is where we could be at some time. So I am begging you to find some place that would be a warming center for these days. The homeless shelter is full, and the lighthouse is open during the day. But, you know, what happens the other hours? And what happens for the people? There's only so much space for anyone in the homeless shelter. I volunteered there. I volunteered at the food bank and here in Waterville, at the Humane Society. I am now taking trucks around from the Winslow Community Center. So please, 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 I'm begging you, let's find a way to help them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Does the city have any kind of plan for these kinds of situations, how to react to it?
We do. I mean, like this is a dedicated warming center that it has to meet certain criteria. I haven't seen the weather forecast, but I know the police chief or the fire chief and things will take a look at that. And then it's run by volunteers. So it's if we can get somebody here to staff it and it meets the criteria, then this could be an option. I know there's been some other places in the city that we're looking to pop up. I don't know what the status of those are yet, but Nick heard that, and I'm sure he will move forward with however we can.
I'm happy to follow up with the police and fire chief to discuss further tomorrow. And I also have been in discussion with the homeless shelter, and they do great work for people to keep them warm and off the streets in the cold weather as well. So I will follow up with those people tomorrow.
I appreciate feedback on that. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? Ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Arisa White. I live here in Waterville. I'm curious about the council's reaction, response to the increase of ICE agents in the state of Maine. How will the police force be responding? So yeah, that's my question for you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so, I know, public comment is for folks to come up and give us comment. It's not a discussion, so we don't go back and forth. So I don't want you to feel as though the question didn't go unanswered or anything like that. Like we just know that's not what this forum is set up for. It's for folks to come and just air a concern or whatever. We hear it and we work on it going forward. So it's not a back and forth discussion. Councilor Green, please.
Yeah, I am just curious, though, what ward you're in. Do you know what ward you're in? No. But anyway, I'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting if you're still here about that, because I've had some conversations with the police chief and others, so, yeah.
Anyone online, Patty? All right, great. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Wonderful. And can I get a motion to read by title only?
Motion to read it by title only.
Second.
All those in favor? Wonderful. Thank you
Bless you.
very much. All right, moving on to old business, ordinance 23-2026.
Adopt the mobile home park rent fee stabilization ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, discussion. Nick, why don't you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to kick that off. In discussion with the city solicitor attorney, we've realized that there's still some clarification needed on potential amendments. And he also was able to state that we have plenty of time in order to make them before you would need to vote on it. If you so choose, you could postpone to the February 3rd meeting, and then at that date, you would have all the proposed amendments that we've heard from you clearly laid out in writing, and that would also allow for more time to make sure we have the proper application process and people interested in being on that board. It would give us more time, because once it is the second reading does occur, if passed, that starts the clock for 21 days. So it was advised by the city attorney that you could postpone to the next meeting to allow for more time for the clarity on some of those matters that are still being worked out.
I'll move to postpone to the second meeting, to the next meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. All right, moving on to ordinance 24-2026.
Amend the boards, committees, and commissions ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Now, Patty, as I understand, this one kind of goes hand in hand with the other one. However, before we just simply table this whole thing, there are a few amendments that we want to make, so when it does come back, they're included.
Correct.
Thank you.
So, yes, as we reviewed this ordinance, Councilor Green had questioned some items at the last meeting, so we've kind of taken a look at those. And so I would propose the following amendments to Section 9-2.3 to strike out item 3, which is Recreation Committee, because that committee has already been disbanded. So that was just, that reference wasn't struck originally.
But to be clear, the advisory committee that we did just approve is still in there, just so people watching at home be like, wait, you just approved this, now you're getting rid of it.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
So the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee has been placed at a separate section within
Yep.
that ordinance. And then also in the same section 9-2.3, item 2, it refers to this committee as a Community Service Organization Committee. However, the committee charge that is in the ordinance lists the committee as the Community Service Funding Advisory Committee. So I would suggest making an amendment from the Community Service Organization Committee to the Community Service Funding Advisory Committee. And that's in that section, and that same reference is also in section 9-2.5, has the same incorrect reference. It lists under Appendix 2B, the Community Service Organization Committee, and that should be amended to be the Community Service Funding Advisory Committee. So those would be the amendments suggested.
I will move as amended.
Second.
Yes.
Just another note. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but does this also potentially get moved to the next meeting because it involves the
Yes.
the committee that would be necessary for the mobile home park rent stabilization ordinance?
Yes.
That is correct. I just thought it would be cleaner to capture the amendments now, and then when it, because this links directly to the prior ordinance that was just postponed, it would be suggested that this also be postponed, but it would come back in the amended version.
Correct. Yep. Love it. Clean.
Yeah. I agree.
Any, all right, so we have a motion on the table to, for the
amend.
amendments. All
Yeah.
those in favor? Okay.
And now move it as amended?
Yeah.
Move it as amended.
Second.
And any discussion?
Oh, no, yeah, okay, that's correct. We're moving it as amended to put it on the floor with those amendments.
Correct. Yep. And seeing none, all those in favor?
Correct.
All right, wonderful.
Now we can, if it's the desire of the council, we could postpone this to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to postpone until the next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion with regard to postponing this until the February 3rd meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. All right, moving on to Resolution 28, 2026.
Appointing a member to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, and this one at the time, okay, so this one, we did not have a representative from Quarry Road identified yet, so we did get that. Hannah Beauchard, who is I believe she's the president of Friends of Quarry Road, so she has stepped up and wants to be part of this board as well. So this is simply doing that. Okay. Any discussion? Sorry. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. Moving on to Resolution 29, 2026.
Authorize waiver of foreclosure of municipal tax liens.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to cue this one up as well. Similarly to the last thing, in discussions with the city attorney as well as the tax collector, it was mentioned that there were still some points of clarification that could be brought up regarding these the foreclosure, waiver of foreclosure, and the date by which we'd have to make a decision, the council that is not until February 10th or 11th. So if you'd like to, there is the possibility to move this to the next meeting on February 3rd to allow for time to seek clarification on those remaining questions of, the nature of these properties and the city's options if they were to choose to go for other collection activities, even in light of this. So the suggestion, if for your consideration, is postponing this decision until the next meeting, which still allows us to proceed with this should you want to.
Okay. Any discussion?
I would highly encourage that we do delay this, and then in the meantime, go through and see if any of these foreclosures qualify for the Haynes charity. We have that fund there to assist people within our city. It is an underutilized charity fund, and if somebody within this group qualifies for it, I would think that this would more than help them in this scenario. So I would encourage us to take a look into that option.
I'll make a motion to postpone it to the next meeting.
I'll second.
right, any discussion with regard to the, yes?
Will we get some explanation as to why C37 Capital LLC is shown as a foreclosure?
That is one such question that we could look into and provide you with some sort of response to prior to the next meeting if you postpone it. I don't know the answer, but we can look into it further.
Yeah, that was one of my questions in regards to, this list. Why is why is an LLC listed? So that's definitely something that's going to get clarified, and part of the reason as the, to table it until the next meeting.
Any other comments? All right, with that, all those in favor? Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to ordinance 30, 2026.
Amend the zoning ordinance C.2.E4 variances.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay. This is, Dan, you're here, right? I saw you, yeah. This is yours, right? This one's yours. You want to, or Ann, you can come up too. Yeah. Well,
Hello. So yeah, this is just a modification of our existing zoning ordinance to allow the code enforcement officer to issue specifically a setback variance for handicap access into a dwelling. So if a person wants to put a wheelchair ramp on their house, they can't meet the setback that's shown in the zoning ordinance. It has to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals, which can be a 4 to 6 week process and several $100s in advertising and meeting fees. So the hope of this, when this was brought to my attention, I'd never dealt with it before in 8 years, but I spoke with Bill Lee about it, and he notified me of a statute that allows the city per ordinance to grant the code enforcement officer the authority to issue a variance for that purpose.
excellent. And this was something that came before the council and referred to the planning board, and now has come back. If we read the memo, the board did vote 6-0 in favor of recommending that the council do revise the zoning ordinance as it was proposed by Dan about a little over a month ago. So any comments or questions for Dan or anything? All right. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to ordinance 31, 2026.
Amend the zoning ordinance 7.1 amendments.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, Ann. Do you want to kick this off or you want Ann to kick it off?
Either way is fine by me.
All right,
Do
Ann.
you have a preference, Ann?
So I thought that Bill Lee is on here. He's the one who sent this to you. Perhaps it was at your urging. There was some lack of clarity as to whether or not the city council was required to send all zoning change requests to the planning board. And the language that the council sent to the planning board was intended to explain that the council is able to choose whether or not it wants to send a change to the planning board. I believe that the language was intended to mean that the planning board's not allowed to act on its own, that all of the changes that the planning board takes up have to be referred to it by the council. But when this went to the planning board voted unanimously that zoning changes shouldn't be sent by the council to the planning board at all. They should begin with the planning board.
Okay. All right. Bill, do you, anything that you want to add to this at this point? Bill Lee, on mute.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we can.
Sure. And Derek Bissick is is present here tonight, and he can address questions as well. But the council, when the proposed zoning change to allow a charter school of some sort out on 8 Rod Road came up, expressed an interest in not having that and did not see any merit in it. And it produced the idea from our concern from the council to allow the council to make a decision, not in some instances to refer something to the planning board. And to accomplish that would require an amendment to the ordinance, which has been drafted, and it went to the planning board. And as we're just told by Ian Beveridge, what has come back is actually just the opposite. The planning board is saying they want all proposed zoning changes to go to them first, and then they'd go to the council, which is not what the council was asking for. But of course, the ultimate decision rests with the council. Any recommendation from the planning board is just that, it is a recommendation. It is the council that has the final say.
Okay, awesome, thank you. 1 second. Sam, you want to, I'm assuming it was a 7-0 vote, so you took part in this discussion as a member of the planning board at this time, so now here you are.
I did. So there were members of the planning board that felt very strongly that the planning board is an appropriate place for all zoning amendments to go. Specifically zoning changes, because they are the board that deals most frequently with zoning changes. They are the ones that are quote unquote the experts in those changes, and because those meetings are properly notified, including telling abutters that that change could be happening in their community. And the planning board felt very strongly that a public hearing should take place. Whereas if it's on a council agenda, it is not noticed to all of the abutters. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, Anne, but there was also discussion around cleaning up the process, because it is a little clunky to like force the council to send something to the planning board in order for the planning board to hold a hearing and then send it back, and then there's 2 votes. So the idea was that all of those zoning changes would start at the planning board when the application is forward, and then we would send a recommendation to the council to approve. So I hope I summed that up well.
Scott.
Zoning changes are political in nature. And, I view my role here as, part of to be a steward for the city and look for efficiencies. And if the city council has concerns about the efficacy of a project, why would we want the planning board to go through all the work required to deal with that? I know that, coming before the city council is not the same as a public hearing at the planning board level, but it is still an opportunity for interested parties to address the council with their ideas and concerns. So there are some organizations out there that have deep pockets, and they can show up at a planning board and generate a lot of work and interest, and it might be better if the political nature of these types of decisions are considered first. Thank you.
Yeah, so my understanding from the board members that felt very strongly about this is that there are a lot of things that go before the planning board that don't go before the council. And so the planning board felt as though they sort of have a wider, more global view of development and zoning things that are happening within the city, and how those zoning things might impact like future development or neighboring property owners. So I think the intent is that yes, it can come before the council, but the planning board might have a wider view of what those impacts might be, and along with the city planner, who is obviously the expert in that area. And so just summing up the discussion, but I think that is why they feel that they should be able to review these things.
Councilor Green?
Yeah, so when we had the discussion about changing the language, which was a little bit unclear for us to determine whether we were just required to send a matter to the planning board, or if there was some discretion. We talked about the fact that it is very important for matters to be heard before the planning board in the past, and that the vast majority of referrals should go to the planning board. That is the proper place for a hearing. However, I've also heard from the planning board in my time on the council, well, first of all, they're required to make a connection to the comprehensive plan. And I've also heard, we need direction from the council on this. And so this is, in my view, simply a opportunity for the council, in the very rare cases where there is a case that seems to have no merit and that would waste the time of the planning board, to have the option to say, no, we do not think this fits within the comprehensive plan for the city, that it would be good for the city. And obviously, if there's any doubt, we would send it. But this is just an option so that we retain that right to not refer in those very rare cases. So I'm going to vote. I'm not sure how the vote goes. We have new language now.
Well, the language that's in the ordinance is what you sent to the planning board to review.
Right.
And then at the very end, the action is the planning board's recommendation, which you can either adopt what is written, or you would make an amendment to the action of the planning board.
Right.
So, yeah, you would just
Right,
vote in favor of
to
this.
restore the language that was struck from what we sent. Yeah.
Well, no, what's struck is the language now. What's there is the proposed language that was sent to the planning board. Correct? Or underlined, whatever it is now.
I think the easiest approach would be to, if you want to vote the way Councilor Green is proposing, is to remove the language that came back from the planning board and insert the language that was sent to the planning board by the council.
Right.
So you would just be reverting to the language that you initially sent.
And for further clarification, that underlined language is in the memo.
Yes, I'm looking at the memo and I've read it. Yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth, so just wanted to be clear. Yeah, well, that's my position anyway. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I think it's certainly possible that there is room for further clarification of this language, possibly, because it is still a little bit vague as to whether, yeah. I think it needs to be clear that this, in the vast majority of cases, the council will refer to the planning board. That is the typical procedure. And the other thing that this does is it prevents a lot of spurious claims from just being sent to the planning board. And this is a bit of a hoop to jump, but it might prevent a lot of needless work on the planning board's part.
So I have a thought on this as well. While this does seem to be an extra hoop that we have to jump through to go through us, send it to the planning board, and then come back to us for approval, I actually don't think it is, because what ends up happening, or what could end up happening, is say, with the charter school situation, if we had it the other way around and it went to the planning board first, and then it came back to us, and then we ultimately ended up denying it anyways because it wasn't good for Waterville in our opinion or whatnot. That's all that time wasted that the planning board spent maybe going back and forth, having multiple discussions with the charter school, that whole process that the charter school was anticipating going forward, and then starting to really flush out how they were going to do this. And it's, at the end of the day, it just gets denied by us. That's a waste of time for them. It's a waste of time for the planning board. And that's just overall a worse scenario than right off the cuff when they come to us, we say, hey, no, like, we don't think this is a good place for this, sorry, and we give that to them right ahead. That's honoring their time and ours, and I think that's the better choice for us.
Just to be clear on what I'm voting on, that's the old language, is that correct?
Yeah, what we're voting on
Correct.
right now, if that's the memo right there, so we're gonna be voting on the ordinance that strikes.
Strikes
B.
the old yeah,
B
okay.
is wiped away.
Yeah.
We'll have to
For
make
clarity, I'm supporting how the not proposed planning board.
Yeah, okay, that's where I'm at too. I agree with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I really am not, don't feel super strongly either way. I will support the planning board's recommendation, but if I may, I spent, I think, 7 years on the planning board and had multiple things sent to us from the council to review or write or ordinances to do, and the council never took our recommendation. So while I appreciate the council saying they would like to save us the time from having these public hearings, it has not been the practice at all historically in my time on the planning board that the council just takes the planning board's recommendation. We have spent months on writing ordinances that the council has quite literally thrown away before. So I appreciate the sentiment, but I just want to clarify that the planning board does a lot of that work, and they do spend a lot of time going through these things for the council to reject their proposal. So I just want to provide that clarification.
All right. Councilor Beal.
I spent 7 months on the planning board, and I thought it was very well run. I was very impressed with the folks that were on it and the work they did. Where I always go back to was the First Church situation. I was always wondering if we had been able to have that discussion up front, perhaps it could have maybe not changed the outcome, but maybe it would have gone a different direction. And the same with the most recent situation with the charter schools. You know, right away, the council expressed its concerns about this, and I think it stops problems earlier. Not all of them, but it's a lot of these things are political, and that's what we're here for, to assess the political intent. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
So just to clarify.
Thank you.
The language that is being voted on is what's in the actual ordinance, which is striking out section B. That's what's being voted on right now.
This is what it is.
So,
The memo,
Unless someone wants to propose an amendment.
right.
So are we voting on the way it was sent to us by the planning board?
Yeah, so
Correct.
basically,
That's
we're
what-
going to be
okay.
voting on the ordinance that removes B from the ordinance, and all the zoning goes to the planning board first.
So we have two options. Well, we have three options, right? Vote yes, vote no, or someone moves to amend. And it,
I mean, I'll move to amend it, to revert the language back to what the city council proposed. And if you want, I could read essentially what it says for everyone. If the city council determines that a proposed zoning change may have merit, The council must first refer the proposed amendment to the planning board for report and recommendation before voting on the proposal. If the city council determines that a proposed zoning change has no merit, the council may vote not to refer the proposed amendment to the planning board. That would be my motion
And
to
I'll-
move forward.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Thank you. And, what was it,
So move it as amended now?
please?
Is there a motion?
I'll move it as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Council Green, you're opposed?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so it's 6-1?
Yes.
Wasn't quick enough.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
all right. Thank you. All right, now we move to a few discussion items. First on the list is chicken ordinance. Nick, you want to kick this off with Dan, or how do you want to handle? How do you want to set this
Sure.
discussion?
So as at least you all would know, and some members of the public, there was a member of the public at a former meeting that suggested that this should be revisited and changes considered. That is up for your discussion today to consider. And then if you have any clarifying questions or would like, there are members of the town's city staff to answer questions, including the code enforcement department chair.
Councilor Beal.
Mr. St. Peter, I think, is here.
Yes.
The last time he was here, he talked in favor of this ordinance, or of changing the ordinance in concept. But he already had a lot large enough, and he already has chickens, I believe. So I have yet to hear from anyone that doesn't have chickens that wants chickens. And I was wondering if there was anyone here that falls into that category.
That I don't know.
Has code enforcement run into any situations where chickens were wanted by the homeowners and were unable to be acquired due to size or lot restrictions or setbacks or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say we probably encounter that 3 or 4 times a year, I would say.
Is it typically the setback that's the problem, or the coop being in the front yard, or is it a kind of a mix?
It's not usually the coop in the front yard. It is either lot size or setbacks. More commonly, it is lot size. Yeah.
So when this came about, I did send an email to you and just to say, hey, listen, what are your thoughts? And you did say that there was possible that you probably had some things that you might recommend or, be open to adjusting.
Sure.
Do you want to, are you comfortable in sharing some of those things?
Yeah.
As we have this discussion?
I'm not opposed to removing the permitting process. I'm not opposed to lowering the lot size some. I would like to keep the setbacks the way they are, just because I think that there are issues of noise, odor, particularly the setbacks against an existing neighboring structure. We have quite a few properties in Waterville where the house is right on the property line, and you got a bedroom window that just looks into somebody's backyard. And it wouldn't be very good to have a chicken coop right up against someone's bedroom window. You've also got issues with, or potential issues with wildlife that are attracted to the animals and they're attracted to the feed. There can be odors. So I think it's good to maintain the setbacks. Having more chickens for larger lots, we can talk about that. That's something I'm not opposed to. Maybe fewer chickens for smaller lots. That could be a consideration. I think there's a state law that says for when chicks are sold, they have to come in batches of 6, but for adult chickens, that doesn't apply. So I think that's why the number is at 6 in our ordinance, if I had to guess. This ordinance has been in place long before I got here. It's been decades. But yeah, those are things, I think it's definitely open to discussion. I think it's good. People have chickens, they want to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, all the things Mr. St. Peter mentioned at the meeting. Teaches kids, good habits, all that stuff. I'm for it. I think it could be tweaked.
Councilor Green.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great example of something that we should send to the planning board. And because it's been 5 years since we amended the ordinance, and life is quite different now. And I think that Mr. St. Peter made a good point about the lot size potentially, penalizing people who don't have a certain amount of land, if that's still safe, and they can raise chickens without creating hazards for their neighbors, et cetera, all the things we've talked about. I think it's worth considering. So I'm in favor of sending it to the planning board for reconsideration.
I agree. I think, I'm never, trying to tell someone what they can do on their own land. I mean, but just as long as it doesn't bother anybody else. I mean, because chickens can, can be a little dirty. But, just as long as it's, the chickens are safe, they're clean, and no one's bothered by it, cool beans.
You said something about not permitting.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was a way of avoiding some potential problems, but.
Well, currently, it's, if someone, so a lot of people don't even know that the permitting process for chickens exists, so we find out about it after the fact. We don't issue a ton of chicken permits. I would say if it's still in the ordinance that these standards apply, you don't really need a piece of paper like a permit that costs $25 to that effect. That's why I don't see a need for it. If there's a violation and a neighbor has a concern, we'll approach the person with the chickens about that concern, regardless of if there's a permit or not.
Councilor Burke.
Yeah, so when I was on the planning board, we spent a lot of time amending said chicken ordinance. And I would agree with Dan. I think the setbacks are really important. We heard from a lot of neighbors about coops being very close to their property line or under somebody's bedroom. And that was like the most common complaint. So I think that is really important. As far as the permitting, I'm just curious, Dan, I see the permitting as like a way, should there be like a flu outbreak or, somebody's flock is ill or something, like that's a way to be able to contact other people in town that might be impacted. So like, I just see the permitting less on like so you go out and inspect it and give them a okay, and more of like, hey, this way we have a way to contact people we know who would be impacted and we can deal with health and safety issues accordingly. So I don't know if there's a way to amend that language, but I would want to see some sort of like way that we know who has these and who might be impacted should there be outbreaks, because those are happening, especially in backyard.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point.
Chicken registration, like new dogs.
Yeah, well, exactly. People have to register their dogs, right?
Nugget or whatever you're calling them.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific recommendations on lot sizes? It's like 8,000 square feet? Or?
That's what it is right now. It used to be 10,000 up until I think about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I would like to I kind of wanted to see what the feel was on this before I went ahead and made any kind of suggestions. So I don't have any right now. To me, if you're lowering the lot size, that's an option altogether, but maintaining the setbacks, of course, that's the prime thing. So even if you have a lot size that's big enough, you can't maintain the setbacks. More about setbacks from structures rather than just property lines. That's my thought anyway. And then possibly for smaller lots, having fewer chickens. You know, you can have fewer than 6. I'd like to put a little thought into it, maybe get something on paper.
Yeah, and I believe a lot of the,
second.
I'm sorry.
Councilor Harden, I believe you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess my question is, so we have, the ordinance is pretty in-depth as far as the regulations and the rules go for these, but you're saying that they're happening without any kind of permitting. So
Yeah.
I feel like loosening that, I have concerns about actually loosening that. So like 8,000 square feet, what is that, like acreage-wise? Just so I can have a,
Well, an acre is around 40,000 or so
okay.
square feet.
Yeah, so that's my biggest concern. Like, we have all these guidelines, and if we're not actually going to make sure they're not being inspected and making sure the properties are properly, then that's definitely a concern for me.
Yes.
8,000 square feet is 0.184 acres.
Councilor Burdick.
Yeah, I believe the 8,000 square foot came based off of like lot size minimums for certain areas and how that would work into the setbacks. So I believe that it's tied to our zoning ordinances and minimum lot sizes in certain residential areas. But the planning
that's
board
all gonna
could
change.
review it. But I believe that that's why it's 8,000 square feet. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
Has
That tracks
Yeah.
with certain zones. So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't. Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, and lot sizes are going to have to. A change is being forced upon us anyway, come July. So.
I do have a quick question. I know that in the ordinances, it talks about the rooster ordinance and things like that, and we have a prohibition on like slaughtering chickens for meat and things like that. But what tends to happen though is if you accidentally get a rooster, depending on who you buy it through and things like that, what do you do with it for one? And then two, there is a maximum age for hens to lay eggs, and then after that point, you have to get rid of the hens somehow, which normally in other places that's through slaughtering them. But now we have to worry about rehoming chickens and things like that. And I wonder if there's any support for loosening that in some degree, maybe not in city, like in the smaller lots, but at least on the outskirts, if we could loosen that so people can feed their family with chickens that are no longer capable of producing eggs or things like that. I mean, I grew up in the woods, in the country, hunting and things like this. So for me, this isn't that big of a deal, but I know some people are of other mindsets. So I just kind of wanted to get the general support of the council.
I thought my understanding was that it is different in the rural zones. Isn't that correct?
Currently, you're allowed to have more than the 6 in the rural zones, correct? Yeah.
But not roosters still? I thought that's what I read, but maybe I misread it.
It might be for roosters. I might have misread that. But I know I think there is a complete slaughtering prohibition. I think that's across all of the zones. And so.
It looks like it is, yeah.
Yes, the slaughtering is prohibited in the current ordinance.
So we have an animal husbandry section that applies to the rural zone. And I don't know if it's addressed, if the slaughtering of chickens is addressed in that section.
That, I don't know.
Yeah. I could look that, I can check into that.
It is in the chickens ordinance, though.
Yeah, it's definitely in the chicken part, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was mostly, it was a two-part kind of question, but I do wonder if we can take a look at that and possibly think about loosening that on the rural zones a bit more, at the very least.
Okay. Leo's here. You want to say anything at this point right now? And just so I'm clear, like, does this, is this something that, based on the discussion we had here tonight, can the administration work up a language, or does this need to be referred to the planning board for a big review or whatnot?
This section of the ordinance is in the zoning ordinance. 275
Oh, we have.
We got it last week.
is the zoning ordinance. So, let's
It's a clean red line document.
Ann, are you still here? Would this have to go to the planning board, Ann? It does.
Okay. Good evening.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks a lot. I appreciate Dan's input, and I also appreciate everyone's got complaints, and he ends up with a lot of them. So, you know, I'm an outdoorsy kind of guy. Not everybody's like me, I get it. But I was at Unity College, and one of the things that stuck with me is when you're outside and you're doing stuff outside, you're just calmer. My main accent's coming through really bad, but city streets that are lined with trees, people go slower. There's less crime. Just being outside. John Murr said, "Come to the woods, for here is rest." And my kids are outside, I'm outside. I'm not a calm person by nature, but I'm calmer when I'm outside. So back to the first thing we talked about, the no slaughter thing. As far as I can tell, it's very hard to read between the lines of all these different zones and what you can do and what you can't do, but it really reads to me like you can't kill a rooster or a hen. At some point, I've had to put dogs and cats and chickens down. It happens with people. Like, you know, you just stop living. And whether you're not laying eggs or you're not healthy or you've been injured, I shouldn't, if I have chickens and say I'm allowed to have chickens or whatever the case may be, I have to do something with that chicken. And to slaughter it, whether I put it in my compost bin or feed it back to my other animals or whatever I do with it or feed it to my kids, I should be allowed to do that. That shouldn't be an issue. Having roosters, and again, I can't, I've read this 16 times. I can't tell you whether in the rural residential can I have a rooster. It looks like I can. I have 50 acres. Just for the record, I've got a couple roosters. My wife likes them. Plants respond to the sounds of birds in the morning and at night. So that's just, you know, we have these ordinances. They're not very clear. And I don't want to say they're poorly written, but they're not very clear. So, and then as far as ordering, when people order chickens, you order them. You go to a Tractor Supply or an Agway or a place like that, and you get little baby chicks. And they do a really good job. Their goal is to sell you laying hens. Most people want laying hens. Most people don't want roosters. But I got stuck with 2 roosters last year. They're this big. You don't know for 6 months, 5 months, whether you got a rooster or a hen. So to have an ordinance where we have an ordinance now that says you could be fined for having a rooster, I didn't order a rooster, but I got a rooster. So we kind of need to work on that part of the ordinance a little bit. The fines, I really feel like they're very problematic. I get a fine for slaughtering my rooster. I get a fine for having a rooster. I didn't know I ordered a rooster, and now I got to get rid of it. So we got to deal with that. And quite honestly, sometimes people just want to kill their chickens and eat them, which is in the Maine Constitution. We have the right to do that. Now, as far as the lot size, 8,000 square feet, I wish someone could tell me the answer to this. It's really hard for me to ascertain, but somebody here could probably, pull up a GIS thing. We have a substantial number of lots in Waterville that fall under 8,000 or less square feet. So we are incredibly limiting people from what the state law says we can do. So that's a problem for me, not because I have less than 8,000 square feet. I have a problem not following the Maine Constitution. So I think we should look at that a little bit. I could literally, I told you this the other day, I could fit 5 chickens in my oven. I could take an aquarium and put a chicken in my basement with a light. It may not be the most happy and humane thing, but space-wise, I got it in my basement. I could put it in my garage. I could put it attached to the outside of my garage. The space, it's just not a real number. We're not doing this based on anything else.
Yeah. All right, so I'm sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off. So I think what's going to happen now, right, is that this is going to go to the planning board. And that would be a more appropriate to have that conversation with them. Because we're not going to make any recommendations to the planning board at this point. We're going to send it off and with some changes or the ask is going to be for them to review, this potential, to take a look at this.
Based on what Sam said earlier, you guys don't follow what the planning board says. So that's why I'm here.
But we don't, until it comes back, like, you know what I mean? We're not, it's kind of a moot point for us to have this conversation at this point because we don't have the recommendation back yet from the planning board. We heard from, Dan, who is open to some changes, which I think is positive. I think we'll go from there. But, yeah.
Just for the record, I think it's an exaggeration to say that the council doesn't follow what the planning board sends. There have been times when we've said voted differently, but I do think that's a bit of an exaggeration. So just wanted to
I was paraphrasing.
clear the record.
She said 7 years.
And that's why I said, there have been times when we have not followed the recommendation, but for the most part we do.
She said a lot of times. So anyways,
Okay.
all I'm saying is when it comes back to you guys, we can go to the planning board, whatever. But the zoning, like dog houses can be loud. They can be messy. There's no setbacks for dog houses. But what we do, we send Dan over, he gets a noise complaint, and he goes over and he deals with it. So I think we have to be fair to everybody and treat everybody the same, whether it's chickens, dogs, whatever they happen to have. Kids, my kids are loud. I think we should be fair.
Just very quickly, as a discussion item, I don't think it is in our wheelhouse currently to refer it to the planning board.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
this will come back next week for a
All right.
referral, to them, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, unfortunately.
I gave you some information.
Yes.
And what I did, I took the chicken ordinance right now, and I tried to amend it as best I could that I think would fall within the main law, under the main constitution. It's very hard because we have these the zones, and I can't, there's so many different zones,
Yeah.
and the ordinance doesn't actually talk to every zone. So that needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
I'm in a zone that, even though I have 50 acres, technically, I couldn't have chickens.
Okay.
So,
All right, we'll get this cleaned up. We'll get it over to the planning board. We'll have them have that discussion over there. Councilor Beal?
Quick question, can we provide guidance as, like, I was very clear in hearing I thought I heard the code enforcement officer say to keep the setbacks as they are. That seemed like a reasonable request. I've got a lot downtown. I have like 7,900 feet. I was a little bit bummed that I couldn't have chickens. I've had chickens in the past. But I also know what comes with chickens if you're not careful. So, and my neighbors would possibly be upset. So it's a small lot. I could fit it with the setbacks, but there's going down much below that, there's just not much room.
I think if we had, like Dan was saying, let's just say they had 2 chickens. I mean, 2 chickens.
Yeah,
fit in
but
a dog crate.
you propose 5 feet setback, and 5 feet's not a lot, even for 2 chickens. You know, that's right below your window.
We just don't have any other setbacks for any other animals.
Well, chickens are not dogs. I think there's a different relationship between dogs and rats as there is between chickens and rats. And, you know, there's all kinds of differences there with regard to cleanup. And so I think there's some good reasons why in an urban area you may want to be a little bit more conservative. Thank you.
Councilor Green?
Yeah, I just want to say that I do think we should put some parameters on our referral to the planning board. I think that you raised a good point, and I'd like the planning board to look at it. But I do think it's important for it to happen at the planning board level and not just to kind of craft some some amendments. And I would like to propose that we have the planning board look at what is a, what is a safe number of, I want to look at this in terms of, shrinking down to lot size. Let's get some language that allows someone to have chickens as little as 2 on a lot size, which provides the spacing that you presented in your language last week. You had, the run and you had the whole thing. I mean, we can right size it for the piece of land that a person has. I do not think that we can allow the slaughtering of animals in the city of Waterville except for the rural residential.
I can go catch fish in the Kennebec and bring them home and kill them and slaughter them and gut them, but I can't take care of a chicken.
Yeah, well, that's my position anyway.
I just want to keep this constructive.
Yeah, well, I mean, right, I mean, this will go to the planning board. Bill, did you have something you wanted to add, sir?
Well, not necessarily, we're just discussing it tonight,
Yeah.
right? Let's
Right.
remind ourselves, this is just a discussion.
Right, this is the,
I think one of the values of having proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance start with the council and go to the planning board is that it gives the council the opportunity to frame what it wants a recommendation from the planning board on. And there's been some discussion here, we'd like the planning board to look at this, look at something else. If we've got the time before the next council meeting or whenever to put together several areas in this ordinance that we would like the planning board to weigh in on, as opposed to just handing it to the planning board with no direction at all.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, and I apologize, I misspoke. This isn't automatic to go to the planning board. This will come as an amendment or an item on the agenda for the council to decide whether or not they do refer it to the planning board, and that will be on the February 3rd meeting. So, okay. Yes, sir.
And I do want to be clear, the information you provided has been very, very helpful with this, and I think this going to code enforcement and the planning board to help inform their opinions is incredibly important, and so I hope that this gets sent their way so that we can all have transparency on these points, because I think some of the suggested changes that you have for the ordinances are spot on. So I think that we can definitely take those into consideration, and I hope that they do.
I gave Dan a copy.
Perfect.
He's been very helpful.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to the next discussion item, which is an update on the health board and local health officer. Nick? Or
Looks
Dan?
like Dan might be coming up. We'll find out, but probably. So I'll just cue it up. So based on discussions with staff, there is the thought that we're waiting on the fiscal year 27 budget to put in a proposed per diem person that is particularly able to fulfilled the obligations of a local health officer. Historically, code enforcement has served that role, but it's since changed in its nature, and it's now requires more medical knowledge. And the staff has looked out into other communities for possibilities, and if put into the fiscal year 27 budget, which you all will have a line of sight on, we could potentially put in monies for a per diem person so that person could be paid as needed to serve in this capacity. And so if you're willing to take that, it would mean perhaps waiting on the official health board moving forward till we have that person available to serve in that capacity.
Okay. Councilor Beal?
Earlier tonight, there was a talk about the Arctic blast coming and the warming centers, and is this a role that this position could fill would this be under their purview to perhaps coordinate these kind of special emergency type?
Dan, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, this position could certainly help facilitate and point people to resources, whether it be our community resource officers, police department, fire, EMS, what have you. But it's a pointing. It's not, you know, the services have to be in place, but one of the jobs of that person would be to point them in that direction.
And just to be clear on the nature of the financial ask, I believe it's something along the lines of $10,000. So it's by no means a full-time position. It's just a budget line item to be able to pay for those services on an as-needed basis.
Councilor Green?
So would this position would be added to the city staff, and for the purpose of staffing a health board? Where does the local board of health come into this?
So I believe as currently proposed, this position would staff that board.
Okay.
And would act as, you know, scheduler in chief and, you know, note taker, facilitator of the recommendations that the health board makes. Am I correct?
So I would like to see, certainly by the time we come to, and thank you very much, by the way, for looking into this. I think it's great. But I think it would be good to look at what the establishment of a local board of health looks like in terms of its members and its charge. You know, what kinds of tasks would it have? You know, the scope of the committee. So I'm hoping that we can also be considering that along with staffing the position, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a little direction given in the statute, so that should be helpful as far as what it should, you know, recommending what the board would be made up of in terms of people and their background and what they would be doing.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm mentioning this is just because providing for the health of residents of Waterville is becoming more and more something that the city is taking on. So I hope that we'll look at this in conjunction with the community paramedicine program that we have, and also our partnerships with community service organizations like the Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter and the Lighthouse, who are doing some of this work to help keep people safe and healthy. Although, again, I'd like to see what the landscape is for this board, because it could become very broad if we're not specific about it.
Any other comments from the council?
So it sounds like you'd like staff to look into further clarity on the scope of said board before you decide about establishing one and the position that might be helping with it.
And I mean, Councilor DeBrito brought this to us, so maybe she has some further things.
So pretty much what the board does, it brings coordination. So it would bring the hospital together. It would bring case managers. It would bring people working with mental health. Would bring people that working at the shelter. What it does, it coordinates all these services, and these professionals will talk about what's going on in Waterville. How can we strengthen quality of life? If there's an outbreak, we're able to control it through that board. So pretty much all it does, it brings coordination to the city. That's all it's doing. And I did talk to other like doctors and stuff like that. I even talked to Dr. Diaz about it. And what he says is public health starts at the municipality. If we're able to help our citizens with public health, that's where it starts at. It's at the municipality. So really coordinating all of the service that we have here in Waterville.
So with that definition, right, like, and so now I would question whether or not and this is something we can certainly look at, is whether or not like, when I think of per diem, it's kind of like, oh, something like COVID happened or something like that, where that person would come in for a period of time. But if Counselor, if I understand you, like this person, these meetings would be more regular than just as a per diem. When I think per diem, it's as needed. So if there's something that we want to get out, then let's have a meeting. But I think if I'm understanding you, this is more of a continual.
Like a full-time position?
Not necessarily a position, but like the meetings, like they happen more frequently than as an as-needed basis.
No,
Because if you're talking about coordination, like that's kind of what I.
So they can come together quarterly.
Okay.
Also, too, legislative did pass a syringe exchange that's going to be coming to municipality. That did pass. It is coming to us. So that's something, too, that they can take a look at that. So, and for instance, like stuff that's coming from the state that has to do with public safety, they're able to take a look at that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're meeting every month. Okay. They can meet every quarter. I mean, they can set their statutes of when they're going to meet.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
And just for the record, my understanding that Waterville did have a public board before. Back in I think as I said, 1890s to 1990s, Waterville did have one. And from what I heard from the people that had it before, it actually worked out really well for Waterville.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much.